So the number one thing that you need to be supplementing with before you start to look at anything else is a very good, very high quality, very well formulated multivitamin that covers all the bases. It's just like swallowing food. It has all your, a full spectrum of vitamins and minerals in it, antioxidants, hopefully a few other things added to it to help assimilate and digest and be absorbed through the gut. But a multivitamin is absolutely essential. The number 2 essential is an omega-3 fatty acid, so fish oils, only because we live in such an inflammatory and highly stressed environment. So the 2 building blocks for supplementation, the 2 foundational supplements everybody needs to be taking, the very good multivitamin and a fish oil or an omega-3 fatty acid supplement. Beyond that, we do any kind of additional supplementing based on an individual's, basically assessment of an individual. We will, additionally supplement based on specific gaps in your diet. So you're just not a meat eater, you don't like protein. We might need to talk about getting you on a protein powder. Maybe you have celiac disease and you can't eat gluten and it's very restricted. We probably need to talk to you about supplementing in addition to a multivitamin and an omega-3. Specifically for bone health, if you have a diagnosis of osteopenia or osteoporosis, we need to talk to you about additional supplementation to support that bone health. Primarily calcium, D3, and K2 over and above a multivitamin and an omega-3 fatty acid. But you can't just take a calcium because you have to bridge the gaps in your diet for that supplementation and for everything to build on its own. And then we also will talk about supplementation for specific health challenges. So possibly, we can talk about cinnamon and turmeric if you have type 2 diabetes, or CoQ10 if you have high cholesterol and you take a statin. So we do accessory or targeted fancy supplements after we've found a good quality, well-formulated multivitamin and omega-3 fatty acid. So let's talk about nutrients specifically for bone health. So we now know that we have to be on a multivitamin and an omega-3 fatty acid, foundational supplements. We're going to focus today, however, on for accessory supplementation for bone health to support bone building. So these are our building blocks after a multivitamin and an omega-3. The materials that must be present for your osteoblasts, your workers. Did you get unmuted, Herb?
Yes, I did. Thank you. Sorry about the interruption.
No problem. The materials that must be present for your osteoblasts, those worker guys, to use to build that strong foundation. So calcium and vitamin D are what we call the dynamic duo for bone health. Calcium is the mineral that makes your bones strong, and vitamin D is the vitamin that we have to get that calcium out of the digestive tract and get it to absorb into the body. So the two go hand in hand. You can't efficiently break down and absorb calcium without vitamin D. The amounts that you're going to need vary with age, but calcium specifically needs to be every single day. You need 1,000 to 1,200 milligrams per day between your diet, what you're getting through your food, and supplementation. One of the big caveats with calcium, though, and this is also usually a pretty big surprise to people, is that our body can only absorb about 500 to 600 milligrams at a time in any one sitting. So we talk with our members here quite a bit about calcium supplement, and they're taking it every morning with their breakfast, but their breakfast is yogurt. And so they're already getting about 700 to 900 milligrams of calcium in that yogurt, and then they're taking a 1,000 to 1,200 milligram calcium supplement and thinking that they're good, and they're not, because you're only going to absorb 500 to 600 milligrams, whether it's dietary or supplementation, at a time. So calcium supplements need to be taken away from all meals, all food, and your supplements, if you look at the store, you're going to see calcium supplements everywhere that are dosed at 1,000 to 1,200 milligrams per tablet. And you're only going to absorb 50% of that at best. So your calcium supplement also only needs to be 500 to 600 milligrams in a single dose, and it needs to be taken away from food. You can also take too much or get too much. So you do need to kind of view your traditional diet, kind of keeping a journal for a few days, seeing where you're at, because if you're consuming 1,500 to 2,000 milligrams of calcium every day, chances are you probably don't need to be supplementing with it. You just need to get that calcium that you're consuming into your bone tissue. Vitamin D every day as well, guys. Current standards right now is anywhere from 800 to 2,000 IUs a day. However, there's research continuously coming out about vitamin D because this is so vital for every system in the body, quite honestly. But in the Northern Hemisphere, they're actually, possibly considering about 4,000 IUs a day as minimum dose. So right now, standard is 800 to 2,000 IUs a day. You can get your vitamin D levels checked at your medical doctor, and I encourage everybody to do that to know if you need to be supplementing for sure. But one thing about vitamin D, we all know that vitamin D is produced in response to sunlight. But one thing that I think a lot of people aren't aware of is if you wear sunscreen, you don't produce vitamin D in the sunlight. So it's become a huge issue, especially for our kids, because if they spend a day outside at the park or they're on the boat all day in the sunshine in the summertime, but they're covered in sunscreen, their body doesn't produce any vitamin D at all. That sunblock, that SPF blocks vitamin D production. And so the same thing with people my age and then people who are older, if your face cream or your moisturizer that you use every day has an SPF in it for skin protection, you aren't going to produce vitamin D on that, if your face is exposed to the sun as well. So just know. Protein, we already talked about protein. 50% protein by volume is our bone. So just kind of, again, keep a running tab or a journal for the next few days and see how much on average that you're consuming. Then vitamin K2. Vitamin K2 is kind of like calcium's taxi. So if we visualize, we eat our calcium, vitamin D comes along. Vitamin D is kind of like our taxi or our railroad car that calcium gets put into. Vitamin D puts it into the bloodstream. Then K2 is our taxi driver. K2 takes that calcium out of our blood and deposits it into our bone tissue. So K2, our taxi driver, takes us from wandering the streets and delivers us to the address we need to go to. So that's one of the things I think a lot of people are scared to take calcium because they've heard that it's really bad for heart health and calcifies the arteries and that kind of stuff. And that is absolutely right. Vitamin K2 is vital if you're taking a calcium supplement because of bone health or diagnoses like osteoporosis. You need to be taking K2 so that calcium doesn't stay in the bloodstream and get deposited into your blood vessels and actually gets deposited into the bone tissue.